We're live. We're live here. It's my Friday, and I'm Scott Stanfield. Today is Mindful Monday. Let's start out with congratulating some people who have gotten new jobs and also promoted and birthdays. Robert W., server at Roost Chris. Now, these people are in my network on LinkedIn. So Samuel, chef and owner of Taboo. Alan, Senior Global Director of Solutions. That seems like a big job. Director of Solutions. That's a pretty cool title. Kevin, Director of Training at Clean Juice. Bryant, owner at Bubba Barbecue. Mark, Customer Solution Specialist at Red Energy. Jennifer, Digital Marketing Intern. Congratulations, everybody. Promoted. Emma to the Education Customer Success Manager at Microsoft. 19 birthdays in my LinkedIn network today. Jana, Andrew, Julie, Jonathan, Carlos, Kristen, Autumn, Michelle, Joseph, and let's see here. We've got somebody else in here. Oh, Mindful Monday, Steve Weber, checking us out on LinkedIn. All right, here we go. Autumn, Michelle, Joseph, Misty, Kurt, Elizabeth, Wynn, Jesse, Damien, Michael, Andre, Cassie, and Cedric. 19 birthdays today, and I got one new follow overnight from Janine, so thanks for following. Here we go. So let's see what we got here. Let's check these things off the agenda here. Let's see here. Intro done. Congratulations, all those things. Okay, so the topic today is how to cultivate an ecosystem that promotes teamwork and excellence. And I also just added in this morning, that is increasing your personal health span and lifespan, because you're going to lower your stress. Now, the first step of this is pretty cool because, excuse me, a sip of coffee here. So the first one is look in the mirror. Now, John C. Maxwell's, hey, Lewis, how you doing? Thanks for checking in here. This is cool. Thanks for joining us. So look in the mirror. John C. Maxwell wrote this book, The 25 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Now, I love two of these. One is the law of momentum, but the other one is the law of the lid. Now, when I heard of the law of the lid, I knew right then that I had to grow as a person and as a leader for me to really be successful at my job. Now, most of you know that I've worked in restaurants for almost 30 years and director of food and beverage at hotels and hospitals and an oil refinery in the Caribbean. So it's been a pretty cool ride. But the law of the lid means that basically no organization is going to pass the level of leadership of the person who runs it. So and this is an example he used, if your leadership's an 8, then your organization is going to be a 7. If your leadership is a 4, then your organization is going to be a 3. So if you really want to move your success up, it starts with looking in the mirror, the manager in the mirror, and that looks back at you. And so what happens is your EQ matters, your emotional intelligence matters. And also that raises your team's collective EQ. And if there's a big separation between your emotional intelligence and your team's emotional intelligence, or what the collective is, then there's some work that has to be done with hiring people that are more emotionally intelligent. And also raising the average, one of the best ways to do that, unfortunately, is you may have to turn to people who have the lowest emotional intelligence in your organization. And one of the biggest impacts I've ever seen, we had one time I had to turn my hostess because she was just freaking out all the time. And the next week, our cover counts and our sales went up by 5%. So one person was making that big of a difference on of the overall sales of the restaurant. So that's a huge thing. This also, if your EQ goes up, is going to lower your stress, and that will equal, ultimately longer health span and a longer life for you. So that's really, really important. Back to hiring. This is number 2. Okay. Number 2 is selecting the right people. And Peter Schultz, I put this quote actually on my interview questions. It says, hire for character, train for skill. So this is I've heard this for years, right? Hire for character, train for skill, but nobody tells you, they tell you what you need to do, but not exactly how to do it. So I can get into a couple of those things. If anybody wants to, puts any comments, I can go into more detail about those things. But, what is character, and how do you hire for people who have emotional intelligence, they have grit, they have altruism or unselfishness, and are really kind of wired to have this bend towards putting others before themselves. And it has to do with the questions you ask and your evaluation of those things. And so if you're looking for to hire people that, and this is funny, one of the things I've said for years is that there's no room on our team for high price free agents. High price free agents typically come in with what is considered an ego, and that makes it really difficult for you to cultivate a team culture. Now, this is promoting teamwork and excellence, and so if you plant the seeds with the right people, hiring the right people, and pruning away the limbs or the people that actually are hurting the overall health of the ecosystem or the tree, right? So it can be as healthy as possible. Then you're really working on cultivating and growing this environment that allows the employees and the customers even to express themselves as best possible. So those are the things. So here's the thing, right? We can look at behavioral-based interviewing questions, and we can also look at different types of things. My best question, and I've been asking this I haven't interviewed anybody and since I've been furloughed back in March, but or just before that, but is this one question, and just asking this one question would be tough. So it's all this sequencing in terms of questions, because I'm working up to this, but it's basically this. If you went to see the doctor and the doctor said you had 6 months to live, what would you do with the remaining time? And when you ask that question, the number one answer is going to be skydiving, travel, some sort of self-centered answer. Those people don't get hired by me. No questions asked. That one question has to be answered the right way. And if it's not answered then the right way, then they don't get hired. But if they do answer with something like, oh, I'd spend time with my family, or I'd really connect with my friends, or and the best answer I ever got was by a J1 student in our country from Bulgaria. And all the stress of this particular in this particular interview, she said, I would get a second opinion. So I'm looking for something that's witty and unselfish in that. And so that's one of the ways that you can, one of the questions and one of the ways in which you can, hire people that are, that have this bend for being unselfish. All right. So here's what I really wanted to talk about. I added those other pieces in, and it was really funny because these popped up to me as I was waking up, falling asleep, and then again as I'm waking up, because I got some mental brownies. And if you don't know what mental brownies are, that's going to be coming out really soon. And Malia, if you see this, no pun intended, brown brownies, but this is where this came from. All right. One of my favorite movies is A Beautiful Mind. And this is really one of the guiding principles in how I cultivated ecosystems and environments that allow people to thrive. And A Beautiful Mind, in that bar scene where, Russell Crowe's character, John Nash, really kind of came up with this Nash equilibrium, which is game theory. Now, in the movie, I know the movie doesn't exactly portray what the Nash equilibrium truly was, but Michael's here. Hey, Michael, how you doing? I would like to answer that question by being the same person I've always been. Awesome. That's great. So that's true, right? You got to be true to yourself, Michael, and that's really important. But so they're in this bar scene, and the blonde walks in, and her friends are all brunettes. And basically the prevailing thought in economic theory at this point, before John Nash, was that Adam Smith's theory on economics was what really people believed in. And that is basically every man for themselves. For the greatest possible outcome in a capitalist environment, is a person would do what's best for themselves. Well, John Nash in the movie basically said, he needed a revision. It was incomplete. And he said, for the greatest possible outcome in a capitalist environment, a person would do what's best for themselves and the group at the same time. Now, this also includes our guests that come in our businesses. And because you all have probably experienced a guest that has like, I want to be sat first, and this is my reservation, and this is me, and this is, all those things. And so this applies to everybody, but also what you have as a leader, whether you're the founder, the owner, a manager or supervisor or chef, sous chef, is the control of cultivating and growing this environment that allows people to really have this bend for being unselfish, and at the same time doing what's best for themselves and for the group. If you have a server that's a mercenary and all they care about is running their own food, and they come up to the window and they only ask about their ticket, and they're not willing to run the food that's in the window so their ticket will come up, then they're not doing what's best for the group. They're just doing what's best for themselves. And so you really want to pay attention to that and cultivate that and grow that and plant that seeds. And so that section of the movie, or that scene in the movie, he basically says, if we all go for the brunettes, right, we will have dates. But if we all of us guys go for the blonde and she rejects us, and then we go to the brunettes, then we'll be rejected by everybody, and then we won't get a date. And so this is kind of an interesting concept, using economics to explain how to grow a culture. This is an older movie. This is from 2002, right? So, and it won Best Picture that year. So it's a great movie. And I highly recommend you either watching that scene on YouTube or even taking the time to watch the movie. So those are the things. Let me repeat this. So the law of the lid, number one, look in the mirror. So raise your own emotional intelligence, raise your leadership, raise your team's collective EQ by doing that, because it's a correlation. The more elevated that you are, then what happens is that your team will follow suit and do that. And there's some tricks to, if you don't understand what emotional intelligence is, basically you start with self-awareness, then self-regulation, then there's social awareness and social regulation. Those are basic 4 pillars of that. Basically, self-awareness is you have to recognize when you are becoming emotional, and then you have to do something about it if you're going to regulate that. I'm not saying suppress your emotions. You need to experience your emotions, but you also at the same time need to realize that when you've been emotionally hijacked, or when somebody in your team's been emotionally hijacked, and help them and yourself reconnect with reality. It even happens with your guests too, right? And I have tons of stories about this, about how guests can get emotionally hijacked. And we'll get into how to reconnect people in a later episode. So that's number one, look in the mirror. Number 2, hiring people that have great character. You can train them the skills. You can train them where the forks go and where the plates go, and how to run food, and what's in this dish and what's not in this dish, and what's gluten-free and what's not gluten-free. You can train people all of those things, because you want people that are sharp that you can train, but you want to have great character as well. And then also using this John Nash equilibrium, which is cultivating the ecosystem that a person, for the best possible outcome in your environment, will do what's best for themselves and the group at the same time, not just be selfish in what they can do for themselves only. So that's what you're looking for. Now let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a special guest, Killer K. Rails, coming on. Now, if you didn't realize this, I have Killer K. Rail in one of my podcast episodes for the Modern Longevitarian, and you can go to our website. You can see the link right there, modernlongevitarian.com, and check out that podcast. He's a fitness expert. He's a personal trainer. He coaches clients. He also he is a tremendous at fasting. Right. And I've been an intermittent faster for 8.5 years, and I've learned so much from Kevin, even in the short time that I've known him. And he was even he's been in multiple documentaries. He was in the fasting documentary that you can see on YouTube. And his name is Kevin Rails. He goes by Killer K Rails, and he's coming on tomorrow and on short notice. And we're going to talk about, because Tuesday is the most productive day of the week. we're going to talk about morning routines and how to make your day as productive as possible. And I'm excited and honored to have him on the show starting tomorrow. And if you, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. I'll probably have him on about 10:05, and we'll go from there. If it's your Friday, make yourself have a great weekend. See you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. In the meantime, you can learn more at modernlongevitarian.com. I'm going to play this outro video right here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's it. Adios.